Do not lose track of the journey because at the end of the day, you know how to enjoy the journey. When you get to the end, you're going to know how to celebrate. But if you're not enjoying the journey and you're not celebrating now, you're going to get to the end and you're going to be like, well, this is it. Like,
What was that for?
seriously?
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, excited to have Monica Garcia Duggal. Monica, how are you doing today?
Yes. I'm doing great. I'm very excited to be on your show and share something with the audience. Hopefully,
Yeah.
really
Oh,
interesting stuff.
it's going to be an awesome episode. I'm so excited for you to be on the show, and we can talk about what you're doing. So a little bit about Monica. She is a viral financial expert and billion-dollar business coach who spent over 30 years mastering and teaching every major financial methodology in the world. So we're definitely going to dive into some really cool stuff. She's got deep roots in investment banking and an active presence on Wall Street. So she is the rare voice who blends institutional finance with visionary entrepreneurship. She's helped scale several companies across industries, including tech, consulting, private equity, all kinds of stuff. So, Monica, with that said, give our listeners a bit more about your background and anything else that I kind of maybe glossed over, missed, or that's really important, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, so basically, I think you said it all. I wanted to go to law school, but I ended up in investment banking, and then I decided I loved finance. So that was the kind of my journey for the next 30 years. I just studied everything finance. I take a lot of uh, classes as executive programs in different business schools all around the US. And so always reading about finance, always interested. My family gets a little tired. They're like, really? We're done. We're done with the subject. So,
Yeah, that's
so
funny.
yeah, that's it.
That sounds like my family too. So that's all right.
Yeah.
Uh,
When we're passionate about something, right? It's like,
yeah,
all right,
exactly.
already, we get it. You like it.
Yeah, we get it. We get it. Can we talk about
Yeah.
something else?
Yeah.
To explain to me, you're the creator of Whole Health Plan. What is that mean, and what's that framework?
Okay. So I think one thing that you have to understand about me is since I am an entrepreneur, if I'm doing something or I need something, I'll usually create a business around that, which is really
Mm,
interesting. So the whole health plan is because my husband and I are entrepreneurs, really busy, but you also think about like your health and you also think about like your,
mhm.
your friends and your family and your spirituality, just like every part of what it means to be a human, right? Because I think as entrepreneurs, it's so easy to just you have to do everything all the time and you're responsible for so much. So it was mostly for people that are high achievers to have a place to find, some kind of balance, which I know some people are like, that's insane. There's no such thing as balance.
So take me through that. Like, yeah, it's balance is very difficult as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, somebody who wants to really achieve big things and do big things. Balance is really challenging, but yet, maybe you'll never be in perfect balance. And maybe you disagree with me, but in my opinion, you'll never be in perfect balance. But and that for me is never the goal, but it is also to make sure that I am minding the other parts of my life and not just only the business, only those financial goals, but looking at my family, my health, my faith, all that kind of thing stuff, and making sure those aren't just being left on the wayside. So, take me through maybe a few of the fundamentals that you think are very important to achieving full health freedom.
Yeah, so basically I really like what you were saying about minding, right? And I think that's it. That's the key. the key is not that we're going to be perfect, but the key is that we do spend some time thinking about these things. Another piece of it is almost anything that you do, 20% of it is where you really are going to get what you need out of it, and 80% is going to be distractions. So if we think about the whole health plan, if you could pick the 20%, let's say with your family, with your business, with whatever you're doing, when you're there, right? And you're really focusing in on the 20% and not wasting your time with the 80%. So almost say no, right? Like if you're at work, right? Because if you don't say no, then your 20% becomes a lot more, like 80%. Now you're working and now you're giving that too much time. And like with your family, right? If you're with your family and you're on your phone or you're on your computer or you're working, it's like that's not 100, that's not your 20%, like
Yep.
amazing time that you could give them, right? Because your family, like they just really want to know you're there, not on your phone. You could be with them, but if you're on your phone, are you really with them? Like you're there, but you're not really interacting with them. Also with everything, with your spirituality, with your health, right? Like your health, even. Let's talk about that. Like, are you making the 20% decisions that you should be making that would talk about the 80%, right? So for example, if you're sleeping 8 hours, I don't know, some people sleep 6 hours, so, but whatever, right? Whatever it is that you need, right? Or you're drinking water, you're staying hydrated. These are just really like boring, basic things, but these are the 20% that are going to help your physiology and
Yep.
help you show up in like, this amazing self that then lets you focus on the 20%, right?
Yep.
Those are, so you could do that. So for me, the whole health plan is only 20% of everything, right? What are the boulders that you want to put in your, like, in your jar? I don't know if you ever heard that analogy. Have you ever heard that? You put the boulders first. Okay, so there's
Oh
this
yeah.
idea.
I've actually heard that at
Yeah.
church, not boulders, but yeah, you're putting the big stones in first. You're all that.
Yeah, so there's the big stones, then there's the rocks, and then there's the sand. And some people put in all the sand. Those are all
Yeah,
the 80% little things. And then they'll put the rocks, right? And then by the time you're trying to put the boulders, they don't fit.
they
But
don't
these are
fit.
like yeah, they're the main thing. So if you start in your jar, you put the boulders in first, then the rocks, and then the sand, and it all works out.
Mhm.
It's just a perspective. And if you're minding these things, if you're paying attention to them, they definitely will give you great results. And I think the biggest battle is just to be intentional with that stuff,
Yeah.
right? And not that you can change everything all day, but if you're gently trying to just do these things, it really makes a big difference in your life.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Um, I I want to talk about I see on your bio here, I want to talk about this think like a deal maker. And you say there's five money moves every you said 5 million plus CEO must make. So what are the five money moves every CEO needs to make?
Right. So I think clarity is one that's really, really big. You have to be clear. I think second is you really have to guard your energy. Three, you have to guard your time. Um, and then the other thing is your money, right? If you're the CEO of your company, you really want to know where the dollars are going. And you really want to be aware of how you can always stay ahead of the competition. And what that really means is that you're paying attention to what's going on in your business and you're doing audits. I
Mm,
know that, many times you have all your direct reports doing all of this stuff, but sometimes, it's good to just take some time and kind of go look at stuff, right? See what you can find. Many times you can find maybe some things that could really help your business thrive. And I think the final thing is so I think the final thing is this like growth mindset. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but that's from like
mhm.
there's this professor out in Stanford, and also some of these really big uh, CEOs like Bezos, just to be curious, right? Always be curious because sometimes when we are leading and when we are, having to make all these really big decisions that, are very important, we forget to be curious about stuff. And so we kind of get out of that space. But that space is also part of like your growth, right? Because I think when we're not here, then we're not going to grow anymore. But if you're here, it's always good to learn. It's always good to be decisive and get into that whole, leadership mindset, but then also be curious. And I think the curiosity, it just really opens doors with your employees, with yourself, just with just the world. I think it's a very important, it's a, very important skill sets to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those are honestly great principles for really have pretty much everything in life, not even just,
A
not just
lot of,
your business, but like everything.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's interesting that you're saying that because I also did the financial bites method, which is finance, budget, investing, taxes, exit strategy, and systems. And exactly that, you can use it for your personal life. You can use it for your business life. So yeah, I think there's a lot of skills that are transferable for sure.
All right. So you just went over that really quick, but I want to go back to that. So you said financial bites method. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Like
Uh-huh. And
BITES, like I'm going to bite
yeah,
somebody. Okay. So
exactly. Well,
taking
because
little bites out of it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I came up with the acronym because I was like, what? I've been doing finance for 30 years. Like, what are the real big pieces of finance? Actually, debt was also in there, but it didn't fit in within my
It doesn't
acronym.
really fit well. Yeah.
That's so I just left it out. So that's like your extra that you get. But if you look at your budget, right, for your business, like let's say you take a month to just look at the budget. Take a
Yeah.
look at it. And second month, look at your investing, right? Or do you have money saved like for the company or where are you investing, right? Are you doing research and development, right? So just all of these places that you can look at for investing and then taxes, right? They're really important. And
Yeah.
just
It's huge
depending on what
expense
level,
if you let it be.
yeah,
Well, no matter
yeah.
what.
Yeah, there's a book. It's called Profit First, and it
Yeah.
breaks down, yeah, it breaks down things into profit, owner's income, and then taxes, and then operations. Really, I love that book.
Hmm.
Um, so then after taxes, exit strategy. I even say if you're just starting your company and you're already thinking about the exit strategy, that's a great way to look at stuff because then that one leads to my last one, which is systems and standard operating procedures, right? So if you have a business, you can actually go if you have the systems in place and it can run on its own.
Yeah. Yeah. I just actually heard somebody talk about the exit strategy, and their whole philosophy was don't think about your exit strategy. You shouldn't be thinking about your exit strategy because if you build a business and you build it right, it's going to be this cash flowing business. And I'm thinking, I thought the exact same thing that you thought is, well, if I'm now thinking about an exit, that means I'm never thinking about selling. But does that actually allow me to set myself up for success down the future and having these systems and processes in place that allow me to package it and sell it? So I do think even if the exit may be 50 years from now, and maybe that exit is your kids take over. I don't know what that exit looks like, but I think thinking about the exit allows you to then strategize for the business properly to make it a long-term sustainable business that you don't have to run your entire life if you don't want to, or if you physically can't anymore.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying. And so as you're talking, I'm thinking about how about maintenance? Your exit strategy is just your maintenance, right?
Mm,
So if you think about it, if you're moving from one house to the other, are you going to take everything from that old house, right? So if we really think about our business that way, if you think about that you're going to sell your company, right? There may be things that you have to clean up, you have to rebrand, you have to create your systems. So I think that's just almost part of keeping your business thriving, even if you want to keep it for one generation, two generations, three generations, right? I think the companies that do well are always paying attention to these things. And so the exit strategy is more like just empowering to you so you could be able to pivot or you could be nimble, right?
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that even if you have like a lumber company or whatever, you can take advantage of the technology that's coming out. You can take advantage of all these other things that are coming down the pipeline if you really think about it, like if you're going to sell it. You
Mm.
don't have to sell it, but
Yep.
having it run that way is not a bad, it can save you a lot of money and actually make you a lot of money, a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. It can make you a lot of money. Once I started actually looking at my businesses as something that I can run without me, something that I could sell in the future, I don't want to say all problems evaporated, but certainly it helped things become much more efficient without me always needing to be there. Now, I put in a ton of time still. I work really hard still,
No,
but
no, for sure, for
it
sure.
has allowed, I think, just a much more processed, much smoother business. And there's always work to be done still. But
No, exactly, exactly. But think about what you're saying right now with the systems. It's easier to just look at your business holistically rather than, right? And it's easier for you to see if there's opportunities, if you
yeah,
want to grow, if you want to 10x or whatever, then at least you don't have to, because the reality, if you want to 10x or if you want to do all of these things, you have to go back and then put the systems in, put all of this stuff in, because then you really have to be able to take metrics of how things are actually working, right? What's going, how your budget is, your operations. You really have to look at everything. And so just to
yeah,
have the systems in place, it just makes your analysis of what you already have uh, just more realistic.
love it. Love it. So, financial bites, budget, investments, taxes, exit strategy, systems. Think about
Yeah.
that in your business and how you are applying all of those things into your business and taking small bites out of the business and making
Yeah,
it more efficient, making it more effective. I love that
exactly.
idea.
Yeah.
Um, Monica, how there's a lot of stuff available to us. There's a lot of potential systems available. There's a lot of potential businesses available to buy, to run, to grow, there's a lot of different investments to be a part of. And so we can get excited about so many different things. Well, how do you know when an opportunity is not just going to be this shiny object, but is actually something that you should be a part of, whether it's a investment opportunity, whether it's a new business to start, whether it's growing and expanding your current business with new product or whatever it is. How do you kind of work through all of the noise?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think whoever the founders are, whoever the businesses owners are, like they, right, like you have a board or what is it that you want, right? Do you want, like, what is it that you want in a year, in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? So that opportunity, it can fit within within your portfolio if that is what something that you want, right? But if it's not, and it just looks like, oh my gosh, I have to take advantage of this because this is just so great, then maybe it just is it's just something that looks really good. But really, you should say no to it. So unless you had, some extra cash that it's extra cash because you just want to do, find something like this and really it may be great or it may not. But that way you've already thought about it beforehand. So I think the way you really answer that is it something that you really need? Have you allocated time and money for it? And if in fact you have, then it's not probably just something like that looks interesting, but you're actually out there looking for something like this. But if your hands are already full, you already have a lot going on, then it probably is just something extra that, it could look great, but it's just going to add more to your plate. And if your plate's already full, it's probably not the best decision. So I know some people like, oh, I got to take this opportunity. But the reality of it is you can live your life like that. But at some point, that's kind of a hamster wheel, if you
Yeah.
really want to think about it, right? But if you're more thoughtful, um, and you know what you're looking for, then that works. But if you do like that idea that you want to just go grab something, then have some extra cash there. Have maybe like a team that would be interested in going and pursuing that and seeing if in fact is it a really viable, amazing revenue stream or not. But at that
Mhm.
point, it's not messing with your main business, with your main real revenue streams.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's really easy to get distracted. There's so much out there. And I hear people talking about things all the time. I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. I want to do that too.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, yeah.
How
So
much are you making?
I mean, I was just talking to somebody today. I'm like, oh, that sounds really awesome. I want to
Yeah,
do that.
yeah,
And it's like,
yeah,
no, that just doesn't make any sense for me to jump in and do something like that. It would just be a total distraction. And
yeah.
yeah, I might make a couple bucks, but I could do much better, go much further in what I'm currently doing if I just focused on
Exactly.
that. Like, don't,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, it's
But
so
maybe if
easy
you,
though.
yeah, if you want to make your portfolio bigger, like have some R&D, right? Have some like cash set aside, right? Decide about like, okay, maybe this deal looks great. Like, how much would that cost? So you put some money aside, and then, if something comes up like that, then you go ahead and take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing wrong with making your portfolio bigger. Just be a little thoughtful before you start doing that. But that could be maybe your next step that, you're ready to take.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, let's talk a little bit more about scaling the business and growing that. Um, you know, how do you teach people to scale properly? And really, I guess to avoid some of the problems you've already talked about and to do it to where there is still some mindful balance happening. So how do we look at scaling a business? What are some of the strategies that you really lean into when you're talking to clients?
Yeah, so what I like to do is again working backwards. Like, how much do you want to make? Okay, I want to make this much money. Okay, so this is your primary business. Okay, so then maybe if you're in real estate, maybe you want to look at something else that's out of your sector, or maybe you want to put some money into like investing. So there's a whole bunch of different opportunities. So if you really think about that, you could look at that from like a 1, 3, 5 year. So in 5 years I want to get to this point. So the way I like to help clients is I like to be like a farmer, right? So if you're a farmer, right, you start planting your seeds and you're taking care of let's say you're planting 5 different crops. Okay, when you're doing this, if you have 1, 3, 5 year plan, because this is your goal in 5 years, is that you start cultivating each one of the different seedlings. And so really this is what happens. One is gonna take this long, one's gonna take that long. So the thing
Mm.
about it is you're patient, right? You have
Yeah.
your plan and then you feed it. And what happens is in 5 years, you're going to get exactly what you want, right? Because you were thoughtful, you created these different portfolios, and that's what we do in our family. Like for example, if real estate's down, then maybe investments are up, or this is down, then something else is up. So really, another thing that is amazing if you can bank yourself. So basically, what that means is that in your real revenue, every dollar you get, you can just put a little bit aside. And I know that some people are like, oh my gosh, uh, you know, this is where the budget comes in. And this is where
Yeah.
the budget can be absolutely amazing. Because really, if you think about that, every single dollar that comes in, you can do whatever you want with it. You
Yeah.
can do whatever you want with it. So if you just put a little bit of thought and say, okay, in 5 years, I want a 10x, right? And then so I'm going to work on this here. And then I'm going to start putting some money aside for like, I don't know, stocks or whatever it is that you want to do, right? The different opportunities out there. And maybe you do that. You see, like, what are the different opportunities that I could get into that would be interesting? Like, really, I think also that you would just be interested in. Like, I'm just interested in that. Like, right? Like, there's 10 opportunities, but three of them, I'm kind of curious and I'm really interested in those, but the other
Mm,
seven, not really. So you
yeah.
focus on those three and you just learn as much as you can. And then you just start gently building, right? You gently building. And then, like I said, there's cycles. So then maybe the market's down, but it doesn't matter because you're continuing to build. The really amazing part about that is that sometimes when something's down and everybody's out and you're ready, you
Yeah.
get some really amazing deals.
Yep.
And then that helps you with your, 5 year 10xing.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yeah. But I think what's really, really important about that is to stay the course and be the farmer, right? The farmer's not gonna be like, dang, I have not seen one plant come out. Like, that's it, right? You put all this time and effort, and then you're like, that's it, I'm abandoning this. And it's like, no, 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 you have to stay your 5 years. And then, you stay and you got all this crop and you made all this money. And it's just like, whoa, wow, it really happened. Because I think that's one of the hardest things for people is the middle. You know, like you have the great idea, you're excited about it, but then when you're doing all the work, that's not glamorous, that's not fun. But if you can actually stick to your plan on the other side, whoa, I'm so happy. Like,
Yeah.
right, I remembered why I started it, and then you get the results.
Especially watching, the next door neighbor's farm and you're seeing their plants are flourishing and yours aren't quite doing
You
as
can't
well.
you can't do any of that stuff. That's
Yeah.
not, no, you
And
cannot. You
but
can't do any of that stuff.
if you keep on working your fields, right, they're going to catch up to the other person and they
But
might
it's
even
not,
exceed them. And
but
yeah,
it's not about catching up. You see, this is where
fair,
this is
very,
where
very fair.
you really have to get out of that mindset
Yeah.
because what's the biggest thing is you decide, look, like most entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs because they are successful and they know how to get stuff done. That's
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah. That is
So
reality.
you can't throw that stuff out the window. You cannot, you have to stay with that. You have to say, hey, I know how to do it. And then you turn off all distractions, which is 80%, which is your neighbors. You turn them off. Sorry, this channel is going off, right? And then you do what it is that you need to do. And then
Yep.
you take care of it. And then in 5 years, you have exactly what you want. And it doesn't matter what your neighbor's doing. You had a plan, you wanted to make all of this, and you made it happen.
Yeah.
And that's real. Like that you can put in your bank account.
Yeah. And just because, your neighbor's crops are bigger than yours doesn't mean yours aren't, doesn't
You
mean
can't do
yours
that.
aren't going to be better, right? In
But
different ways.
it's not about better. It's not about FOMO.
Well, but
It's
it's about
see,
what I mean by better is everybody's got a different motivation of where they want to be and why. And if you're following somebody else's path, then
yeah,
you
but
are
that's the whole
stuck with
point.
getting their results. And
I
are
know,
those
but
results the results that you want to actually get? And that
yeah,
goes back
I
to your
love
point
that. I love that.
earlier of planting your seeds and really understanding where you want to go. Because if we're just
Exactly.
focused on the neighbor, then we're going to get the neighbor's results, right? But is that the result you're really looking for? That may or may not be, and it likely isn't. So you have to, as you said, you have to just work backward. You have to go from that start and
Exactly.
really think of where you want to go.
Yeah, yeah. And that whole neighbor thing, like that's interesting because I was talking to a friend the other day and we're talking about this stuff and there's a saying like don't compare people's outsides to their insides, right? Because the reality is we don't know what's going on
I
with
have
people,
no
right?
clue.
Something may look absolutely amazing. We have no idea. So I think that's where like, you just have to decide. And I think that's the other thing. I actually I had a podcast yesterday as well. And she was talking about like, well, uh, something about when you get something, but then it's not that great.
Hmm.
And I said,
Yeah.
because externally, you're like trying to externally, like, right?
Yeah.
It's not your internal compass. It's not
It's
like,
not
if
really what you
that's what,
wanted.
yeah, exactly. If that's what you want, then go for it.
Yeah.
Then do that. But be clear on that. Because really, at the end of the day, why are we going to do stuff that and put all that hard effort if it's not really something we want? Like,
Yeah.
seriously, let's think
Yeah.
about that for a minute.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. Work backwards. Really think about what you want, because it's a long journey, a lot of work and a lot of effort. And if you're
But
just,
think about how
it's
much
so
fun your
fun,
journey is.
but
Well,
it, but
think about,
it's
yeah.
way more fun though, Monica, when you're doing it on your own terms, right?
But that's it. That's the
Yeah.
only but I think that's why people have to like see how successful and how awesome and how resilient and how determined you are. Stick to that and
Mhm.
wish other people luck.
Yeah.
But know that you're going to get to wherever you want to go and you're going to be freaking happy and you're going
Yeah.
to be proud
Yeah.
because that's what you really wanted. You sat yourself down and you had that conversation with yourself and you're
Love it.
like, yeah, that's what you want. All right, let's go get that done. And then rest on all the work that you've already done. Rest on that stuff. Like, seriously, hang out there and pat yourself on the back and say, I got this. Let's do this, you know? That's the best. That's absolutely the best. And I think that's where you're not only going to get what you want, but just like even like just blow it out of the park because once you keep on that and it kind of is affirming too, right? Like then you plant it and now you're starting to see your crop. Like that's pretty cool. You know what, Todd? There's another thing that's really, really important. People do not know how to celebrate. Like
Mm.
we finish one thing, we work so hard to do something,
Guilty.
and then we're off to the next thing. Like
Guilty.
we didn't even take the time to celebrate. Like, yes, I got that. Like, what happens to us? Like, seriously. And I'll tell you what, there's so many people like that. Guilty as well. But that's what we need to do. We need to like celebrate all of the wins. And I think that's in gratitude and stuff. Right? Like,
Yeah.
whatever it is that you get done, because at the end of the day, it's not the end result, it's the journey, right? You've heard of the Olympian that gets the gold medal and they're like, great, now what? Like,
Yeah.
seriously, like you're a freaking Olympian, like you're the best of the best. And you work so hard. Not only did you work hard, but you had like the best coaches, right? You had to do all, and that's what, right? So it's like the journey, like do not lose track of the journey because at the end of the day, you know how to enjoy the journey. When you get to the end, you're going to know how to celebrate. But if you're not enjoying the journey and you're not celebrating now, you're going to get to the end and you're going to be like, well, this is it. Like,
What was that for?
seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Love it.
Yeah. So somebody's going to have to write a book about that.
Sounds like you got it.
Oh my
I
gosh.
can't
No.
wait.
Yeah.
I'll be the first sale. So,
Yeah.
Monica, what's a mistake that you've made and how have you learned from it? How can you teach our listeners?
I love this question, and it was freaking expensive, let me tell you. So my husband and I have like done real estate and we've bought properties for ourselves. We're actually brokers in LA because, we have so much experience.
Yeah.
So I go to New York with my daughter. She's going to NYU. And I think like, okay, I think I'm going to buy a little studio out here. Oh, because I've bought property in like Arizona, in like Florida, Seattle, in all these LA, so all these places, right? I think I
Mm.
know what I'm doing here, right? I've did some real estate even before. Oh my God. New York is insanity.
Mm.
Like they don't even have real estate agents. They just use attorneys.
Mm.
And it was such a big mess. I was like, I do not want to get one of these, what are they called? They're called co-ops because they
Okay.
have to
Yeah.
like, so I was going to pay cash. So I thought this is going to be super easy. No, no. I ended up like, I never got the financials from the property because I was trying to do all of the financials to get them to say, oh yeah, we'll take her. So I never got the financials, never got the meeting minutes, nothing. Like I literally had to back out. I think I kept a little bit of my earnest money, but I had to get an attorney here because the person that was selling it was an attorney. The person that was like supposed to help me was also an attorney, but she wasn't helpful at all. So I had to get another attorney to
Hmm.
deal with this. And it was amazing. What I found really amazing is because she was an attorney, right? So I thought she had helped me with the contract. And so what ended up happening is I was like, okay, you have to deal with contracts all the time and stuff. And so some of them are so simple, like real estate usually. Like anytime I've had a deal, it's been like almost a no-brainer. But in New York, that was not the case. And because I had an attorney, right? Not even a real estate agent, an attorney, I just misread the whole situation. So what I learned in that is like, you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna read and I'm gonna go through like this
Yeah.
contract with,
Do
you
your
know,
due diligence.
exactly right,
Yeah.
which kind of makes sense as a business owner. That's just normal procedure. But I think, like don't like you can't really ever get too comfortable,
Yeah.
right? Just because
That's
you
the
have
key right
20
there.
years, just because you have 20 years and then you think
Yeah.
some attorney now, right? Which you wouldn't even have an attorney, you'd have a real estate agent. So you're thinking like, oh yeah, they'll take care of it. Like don't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like that was my lesson. So now it's like I do not care. You don't like the terms. That's okay. Like I don't need this. So that was a very that was a beautiful lesson. It was a very expensive lesson, beautiful lesson, and I'm sure that all my other contracts will be much, much clearer now. Yeah, so it's
Well,
easy for me to actually get out of stuff. Yeah,
like you said, though, you've done it before. You feel really confident, and you just kind of start. Just
exactly.
don't. Yeah, you should do the due diligence, but you take a couple shortcuts, and all of a sudden you
Well,
realize that was a
but it was
mistake.
yeah, but it wasn't really a shortcut. It was just so kind of naive, right?
Naive, sure,
Because it was very naive because I wasn't there, and then I didn't know that the attorneys did that they were involved because I did have a real estate agent, so I thought
sure.
she was taking care of it. And then the whole process to fill out all that paperwork, right? When you're paying cash for something, it just seems so odd to me. So I
Hmm.
think just really naive like right so like at every point you know even if you're paying cash like you gotta
Yeah,
pay attention to stuff. I
yeah,
just was like what's going on here. Yeah, anyway, good
good
listen.
stuff. Monica, what's your favorite book that you can recommend to our listeners?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm gonna self I wrote a book.
The power of breath
Yeah,
or
the
breathe.
power of breath. It's called The Gift of Self-Actualization Through Meditation. It's a little bit interesting. It was during COVID, and I like to do whatever successful people do, right? I'm just like I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, right? If successful people are running, I'm running. If they're meditating, I'm meditating. And so one of the reasons that I wrote the book is so I don't forget to meditate, because meditating it does get a little boring, and it's like, oh my God, you got to slow everything down, but it's so important. It's so powerful also for business.
Hmm.
And so I do read it. I created an audiobook, so I listen to that as well. And then I do like Profit First. There's
Yeah,
another
it's
book
a
that's
great
really
book.
good. The Goal. Did you ever read that? The
I have
Goal.
not read The Goal.
Oh, that's about operations. Amazing, amazing book. We had to
Do you
read it
know who
for our
writes that?
EMBA. I can find out. Here, give me a
That's all
second.
right. We can look it up too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Monica, I got one last question before we wrap up. What are
Okay.
your three pillars of wealth creation?
My three pillars of wealth creation. I think a part of it was what I said with the CEO. So for me, it's clarity. Uh, it's deep work, which
Mm,
sounds interesting, but I think that taking that time and having those conversations with yourself and really thinking about what it is that you want is very important. And then the last thing is to be curious for sure. Like be curious. And I think that's important because sometimes you have to learn new things. Like for example, going into something new just because you have 30 years worth of financial experience, that's okay, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things that I still don't know.
Yeah.
I could have 100 years of financial
Yeah.
experience and
But
I
if you're
just
still curious, you're going to still continue to learn and improve.
exactly. And so
Yeah.
you can always learn, like for example, if there's interesting businesses, right? You can
Yeah.
learn about them and see, what is interesting there. Yeah.
Monica, it's funny you said that because I recently did a solo podcast episode on the power of curiosity. And it came from, I brought my son to one of my apartment buildings and we're doing a huge renovation on this apartment building. He was just so curious the entire time. As
Love
we're
it.
driving there, he's
I
asking me a
love
ton
it.
of questions. He's 12 years old. He's asking a ton of
Oh,
questions. And
that's
we get there
awesome.
and he's asking a ton of questions. He's asking the contractors questions. And when we leave, he's asking questions. It was just
That's
like,
awesome.
man, the power of curiosity. Like for a 12-year-old, he knows nothing about this stuff. He was
I
so
love it.
curious, asking such good questions. I'm thinking to myself, how many people that are adults, way more mature, and would not ask these questions because they are, I don't know, embarrassed to ask them. They're just, but he's got this like power of curiosity that we all need to embrace. Like we all need to
It's
embrace the
true.
12
It's
year
true.
old's
Todd,
curiosity.
Todd, if you have curiosity, you're gonna live an amazing life to be
Yeah.
120.
Yeah.
120. Like you do not lose that curiosity. And that's the beautiful thing about kids because they're inquisitive. They want to learn, right? Like
Yeah.
that is people and you can keep that. You could and
You
I
can
love
keep
that
that.
I love that he like just brought that back to you. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I love it. Yeah.
It was just this like I was just amazed at all these questions and it was
Isn't
so
it
fun to
beautiful to
see.
just see that? Yeah, just
Yeah.
like to experience that. Like it's almost like a garden or something, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I didn't really think of that. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, what about that? So answer the question, you know. Yeah, it's a
That's
beautiful
great.
thing. Yeah.
Well, Monica, look, I really appreciate you joining us on the show. Lots of fantastic
Thank you
advice, really
so
fun
much.
conversation. How can our listeners get in touch with you?
I have a website, Monica Garcia Duggal. So it's www.monicagarciaduggal.com. And then I also have a LinkedIn and Instagram. So also, if any of your listeners want the financial bites blueprint, they can download a free copy on my website.
Great. Monica, we'll put
Yeah.
that on the show notes as well. So
Okay.
listeners, you can get the just direct links right there. Check that out. Monica, again, really appreciate the time.
Thank you
And
so much, Todd.
yeah, it's been a blast.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out. And we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.